Hello there. I want to welcome you to Beauty Superstars Talk. It's your backstage pass to experts in beauty. My name is Mickey Wright. I'm your host, and I'm a salon pricing strategist with BeautySuperstars.com. I help hairstylists go from struggling to superstars who confidently raise their prices and charge what they're worth. And I want to thank you today for joining us. I actually share sometimes that I was one of the first African American owners of a full service salon and day spa. And I am super excited today because you are going to meet another one. Her name is NeCole Cumberlander, and we met so many moons ago. It's kind of crazy, but it was through an organization called the Salon Association, which was TSA, and it had about the top 10% of salon owners in the country as part of it. And I can't even remember there being a handful of people who look like us. And so we met, and that group has morphed into the Professional Beauty Association, which you may know as PBA. And NeCole has continued to play, some pivotal roles in that association. So before we jump into our conversation, if you're here for the first time, I want to say welcome. And if you are returning, I say thank you. Each and every week, I get the privilege to be able to interview Black beauty bosses who are doing amazing things in the beauty industry. We give voice to their stories and celebrate their excellence while they drop nuggets to help us become better beauty pros and better entrepreneurs. So it's much more than a podcast, it's actually a movement to encourage Black excellence, entrepreneurship, to preserve our history, and to bring healing to our industry. And so I want to thank our sponsor, which is the Luxury Hairstylist Blueprint, and it gives hairstylists a four-step process to raise their prices, elevate their client experience in 6 weeks or less without guilt or fear. And so, if you'd like to know more, you can be sure to sign up for a brand new workbook that I have. It's the Hairstylist Power Pricing Workbook, and you can download it for free at beautysuperstars.com. And again, it's beautysuperstars with an S on the end.com, and it will help you to be able to take those first three steps to raising your prices. So I'm going to share NeCole's bio, and then we're going to jump right in. So welcome, NeCole.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're here. So let me share this, and we will dive in. So NeCole and Orlando Cumberlander have been in the beauty industry for almost 30 years and have achieved a plethora of awards and accomplishments. NeCole started out like most hairstylists behind the chair, but shortly after beauty school became a national educator for John Paul Mitchell Systems. After several years of educating around the world, in 1994, NeCole realized her dream to become a co-owner of the award-winning Noir a Blanc salon and spa with her husband and business partner Orlando. They later sold the salon after 15 very successful years in business. During her years as a salon owner, she became involved with the Professional Beauty Association, the largest national salon business owners association in North America, where she was an active member and past president. NeCole's passion and commitment for the beauty industry also led to the appointment to the State Board of Cosmetology by former Governor Bovanovich. In 2004, NeCole and Orlando were encouraged to open Paul Mitchell, the school, Cleveland, and 2 short years later, they opened their second location in Columbus, Ohio. The success of their schools has allowed their company to grow to over 75 employees and graduating over 300 future professionals per year between both locations. And I just have to stop and say, woo!
Thank you.
That's amazing. It makes their school two of the largest cosmetology schools in Ohio. Aside from being involved in her schools, NeCole serves as president of the Paul Mitchell School Franchise Association and a member of civic organization, the President's Council. She and Orlando are loving parents to their greatest accomplishment, children Orlando Jr. and Skylar. So, with all of that, I say welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we were hoping to have your whole family. It's like this month is actually dedicated to it's a family affair. And so we're
Yeah.
going to be talking about what it's like to work with your family, as well as, all of the different accolades and accomplishments that you've had throughout your career. So I always love to find out, like, how did you even get started with the beauty industry?
Well, you know what? It's funny because that was something that I always loved. Like as a kid, I always had Teen Magazine, Teen Vogue, Right On Magazine. all of those fashion or industry magazines on my nightstand. Like that was my thing. And, I didn't really know anything about the beauty industry, so to speak. Growing up, I'm an 80s baby. Well, I was born in the 60s, but grew up, my teenage years in the 80s. And, fashion was a huge, piece of what we did. And like a lot of girls, I was the braider. I, braided a lot of hair. That was my side hustle, in middle school and in high school. So I always loved the beauty industry. And never, I'll be honest, I never really thought of it as a career.
Mm.
Um, I, I just didn't know people around me that other than my hairstylist and my mom, bless her heart. I think really she was the one that got me involved because she was terrible at doing hair. So I started doing my own hair when I was
Okay.
like in the second grade. So between her mess and my hair stayed in need of some help. And so that was always a journey for us, trying to find, the right person for my hair. And, and that's another conversation, because I was just trying to fit in and to be pretty and to find what worked for my hair. And as a kid growing up, that was a very, very difficult journey for me and my mom, like I said, because that was definitely not her thing.
Okay.
And she had naturally curly hair, and I did not. I
Okay.
had very 4C curl hair. And, back then we didn't know what to do with that except relax it.
Hmm.
And at a young age, my mom, at least bless her heart, she had sense enough not to slap a relaxer in my hair. So we were really struggling to try and figure out what to do. So I think that's what really sparked, my interest in hair, and then of course my love for just fashion and beauty in general. It
Hmm.
was an obvious thing. My best friend's sister, older sister, who I just thought was everything. She was so cool, and she went to beauty school.
Uh,
And I thought, that's what I can do. I can go to beauty school. So
uh,
literally, I was in college. I was at Ohio State, my second year, my sophomore year of college, and I can remember so vividly. It was, you have those significant moments in your life that you never forget. And
mhm.
this was one of them. I literally was sitting in a lecture hall with about 200 people. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the professor went wah, 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 wah. And I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I here? And I can just remember gathering my things and, you know, tiptoeing out with the church finger. And I went and signed up for beauty school that
So
day.
you left in the middle of the class.
I left in the middle of the class, yes, because I think in that moment I realized you get one shot to go around, one shot to live your life, and I was there in college for all the wrong reasons, trying to
Mm.
please my parents, my grandparents, everybody that thought what I should do instead of following my heart and doing what I thought was best for me. I
Mhm.
just had to step up. I'll step out on faith and do that. And that was a significant moment in my life that had literally changed the whole trajectory of my life forever.
Right, right. And that was a really powerful and courageous move that you made, in terms of, like you say, the not necessarily pressure, but it's like this person wants you to do this and they think you should do that. And it's like for you to be that young and that at that age and to say, nope, I gotta follow what's in my
Yeah.
heart.
And the
Yeah.
crazy thing is, well, let me just say, it took me 2 weeks to tell my parents I dropped out of college and had
Okay.
enrolled in beauty school. But at that point, I was in too deep, so I went with it.
Okay.
But you just have to do it. You have to realize, even though at that time there were really, I didn't have any role models to my knowledge, because I wasn't really invest into like the beauty industry piece of it yet. I was still pretty much fashion. So I was following like the models. At that time, Whitney Houston was one of the top models for Teen Magazine. She hadn't even been a singer yet. So I knew who Whitney Houston was before she was a singer.
Right.
And so that's the way I was following the industry. And so getting into the hair industry was a whole new thing for me. Other than me braiding, that's really all I really knew about it. So I didn't know about the Floyd Kenyatas and the Thomas Haydens and the Olive Bensons. I didn't know about them yet. So once I got into the industry, it was like I just really just kind of dove in and just started finding everything that I could read about what was going on in our industry. Because my parents asked me when I finally did tell them, they asked me, "So what are you gonna do with that?" I couldn't answer them. I was like, "I don't know. I don't have a clue. I just know it's gonna be fun, and I'm gonna make money. I'm gonna be successful at it, but I don't know how yet. But just know that I will."
Yeah, but that's beautiful. That's inspiring, for someone who's like, it's like, I know this is what I'm supposed to do, but I don't know all the pieces. It's
I
like,
didn't know all the
yeah,
pieces. I didn't know any of the pieces.
okay. Yeah, what do they say? It's like you don't have to see the whole staircase to take that first step. So
Nope. And that's exactly we're talking about going out on faith. It was totally going out on faith.
yeah,
But something that like talking about firing your belly, that really it like the beauty industry just gave me such a fire in my belly and such passion. And the more I learned, the more I wanted to learn.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's definitely so much to learn, and it's like you
Yeah.
definitely, just from your career path, definitely had to have dived in to learning and growing. And that's even why we were in TSA together because
Exactly.
I learned
Trying to figure it out.
that next thing. Yeah, yeah. So I think from your bio, it's like you went from school into educating relatively short period of time.
Literally 6 months after I graduated from beauty school.
Okay.
And funny story, the gentleman that I was assisting, because I assisted as soon as I graduated, and he asked me, Michael Bernard was his name. He's passed away, but he was yeah, you remember Michael.
Yeah,
He was,
he was in the not to cut you off, but it's like such a good memory. He was, I won the grand prize for the You Set the Trend competition
yes.
for that, and he was, I think, the second place person. And
Well, he is
or
how I knew of how I learned about you, because I knew who you were before we met.
okay,
So
okay.
that's how I knew who you were, was from that competition.
Oh wow, wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
like we were on a team. The three of us who were the finalists, we had like a
Yep.
little, little traveling team or whatever, and we did shows and stuff together. So it's like,
Yep.
wow,
I
it
do
was
remember that. I know. Wasn't he was just the best.
kind of
He
giving me
was one of
chills.
my dearest friends.
Yeah,
And God rest his soul, but
yeah,
he
wow.
was just so pivotal in my career. And I was his assistant. That was my
Okay.
first job out of beauty school. I was his assistant. And very early on, like literally a couple of weeks after we started, after I started, he set me down and asked me what I wanted to do with my career. And there was a Paul Mitchell educator that came to our school. And literally, Paul Mitchell was just kind of starting out. It was in the early years. Paul Mitchell was still alive at that time.
Okay.
And this young lady came in and did a class for our beauty school. And I went to this little mom and pop beauty school.
Okay.
And I was just in awe. I mean, she had like these fly clothes on, and her hair was all like so hairdressery. And I mean, I'm like, yes, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. So I was her assistant when she came to our class.
Yeah.
And literally, I just kept asking her all these questions, how she got involved, with Paul Mitchell. And so when Michael asked me what I wanted to do, and I told him, I said, I want to be an educator for Paul Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, okay, well, what does that look like? And I was like, I have no idea. And then so I told him the story. And, this is how it was one of those God winks. A couple of weeks later, somebody from Paul Mitchell's distributor contacted Michael and asked him to, because, he was a very well known hairstylist
Mhm.
throughout the country, especially in Ohio. But they asked him to audition to be a Paul Mitchell educator.
Okay.
And literally, I wasn't even 6 months out of beauty school yet.
Uh-huh.
And so he told them, he said, I would love to. He said, but I've got a sharp, young, fresh out of school assistant, and that's her dream.
Wow.
And I just want to know, can I bring her and will you give her a shot?
Wow.
And they said if she could pass the audition, we'll train, we'll do a 2-day training, and if she can pass the audition, absolutely. And
Yeah.
so he took me with him. We drove to Chicago, did the training, and the rest is history.
Wow. Wow. Talk about some pivotal moments. It's like I'm getting like so emotional just hearing all of
I
this, like,
know.
stuff I had no idea about. But yeah, but I mean the selflessness of Michael to make sure that you were part of that is
Yeah, he just
beautiful.
took me with him. And you know what? That's something that I never ever forgot, because that could have went so many different ways had
Yeah.
he not been the man that he was, and
Yeah.
selfless and always looking out to bring the next man up. And he taught me so much, so much. But that was one of the biggest lessons that he taught me, which I think is one of the reasons that got me into education in
Mhm.
terms of schools, because I saw just in my journey how much beauty school students were struggling and how much they needed help and direction,
Mhm.
particularly students of color,
Right.
how much help and direction they needed. Because, I mean, I don't have to tell you or most people in this audience, they're still, they're still struggling. They come in with a whole different mindset about what our industry is really about and what the opportunities are available to them in our
Right.
industry.
Right.
So I think that is one of the things we tell them on day one. Like, this industry is will allow you to go through the roof if you let it.
Right.
If you let it, but you gotta come correct.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, getting on as an educator with Paul Mitchell has definitely been a trajectory changer for your whole career. So,
Yeah, I mean,
that
I've been with
approach,
them 30 years.
right,
Literally my entire career, I've been with Paul Mitchell.
is phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, and what was it like, it's like at that age to be part of the team, to travel the world, and travel around and see and experience and, get to meet hairstylists from all over. And, what was that whole thing like?
You know what? It was an experience just beyond my wildest imagination. It really was, because, again, I said I was the one that was always just doing research. And of course, that's when I started learning about the Mickey Wrights and the Floyd Kenyatas and Olive Bensons. And so to be able to be out in different arenas and different shows, and then get a chance to work side by side and directly under Floyd Kenyatta when
Hmm.
he became the artistic director for John Paul Mitchell Systems, and then he hand selected at that time. I had been with the company for quite some time, and so he selected me to be a part of the texture design team.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, I mean, we're still very, very close to this day.
Yeah.
And so just the relationships that I was able to build,
Hmm.
the mentorship that I was able to be up under and learn from,
Hmm.
it's just it's it's
Right. Right.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, just a phenomenal career, phenomenal start to your career because it's
It
like the
really
fact,
was. I mean, it
yeah,
totally jump started me, you know. I mean,
yeah,
how from behind the chair to what that looked like, the navigation,
Hmm.
from once I finished from behind the chair and once I got into business,
Hmm.
being involved with, some of the top business minds in our industry, the David Wagners, the Gene Juarez's, the Robert Cromings, you know, all those people that are just killing
Right.
it in the business world and our
Right.
industry. I get to call them my friends and
Right.
pick up the phone and say, "Hey, I'm struggling. What do you? How do I get out of this? What do I need to do? What's my next move?"
Yeah.
And it's to be able to have those kind of relationships.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, it's invaluable because I get to pass those along to my students.
Right, right. Yeah, and it makes me think that, it's like a lot of times as Black entrepreneurs, it's like we don't always have those connections, that network, those people that we can call that are, a few steps ahead of us, if not
Absolutely.
many steps ahead of us. And so I think it's so important that people really get, how important forming some of these relationships can be, and having these mentors and having people, that you can call and people that can, help walk you through and
Oh yeah, relationships are everything. I
yeah.
mean, I will tell anybody and shout from the highest mountain that I am where I am by the grace of God. Please, let's be clear.
Right.
But also because of the relationships that I've been able to build throughout my career.
Mhm.
When Clayball and I didn't
Mhm.
become friends when I became a school owner, I've been
Mhm.
friends with Win for 30 years.
Yeah, okay. Uh-huh.
We started out on the road together. He would come out. He was an aspiring motivational speaker, so
Hmm.
he would come out before we went out on the stage and do his motivational thing, and then we would go out and do our thing on stage. And you know what that looks like behind the stage, prepping and waiting and waiting and waiting. So we had some of the most amazing conversations
Right.
about the industry and about what the industry needed and the direction that it was going in. And back then, I was a salon owner and he was a little school owner,
Hmm.
and it always came back to we need better schools. We need better schools. And he had one of the top schools in the country at that time, Von
Hmm.
Curtis Academy.
Hmm.
But he was just one school.
Right.
That what he was doing in his one school was unheard of, and nobody was doing it throughout the country.
Wow.
And so it was always we need that. We need that all over the country in order to make a shift. And if we wanted to be able to compete, continuously compete with our European counterparts and our international
Mhm.
counterparts, and it was going to take some education and some remodeling of our educational system in the beauty industry.
Right.
And that's really where the whole Paul Mitchell School thing came from. It was from those conversations that he would have with people
Hmm.
around, when we had that downtime.
Right.
So
Right.
relationships are absolutely everything.
Hmm.
And then one thing I also want to say is how important it is, and you can speak to this just as much, how important it is to get involved into our industry associations. You
Hmm.
know, um, I mean, how many connections you made with being involved in TSA.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where I got to meet the Gene Juarez's,
Mhm.
who sold his salons for millions of dollars.
Right.
That's unheard of. Like before I talked to him, I didn't even know that was possible. Like,
Right.
wait, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean you sold them? He was like, yeah, I sold them. And he sat down and told me exactly how it happened.
Wow. Yeah. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so, and I would not have even been in the same room with someone like that
Hmm.
had I
Right.
not invested in myself and my business to
Right.
go to some place like a TSA,
Right.
where how many people were there in the audience at any given time?
Probably 400 or 500, maybe.
Yeah, and at its peak, it was in the thousands.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
know when I was president, we probably had like 4,000 membership.
Okay. Okay.
And how many of us were in the room?
There was you and there was me and
And probably like 4 or 5 other people, including
yeah,
my husband.
right. I mean, there really was not a lot at
No,
all, and it
not
was
at all.
a fabulous
So we have to get out of our
opportunity.
own way. And how did we find out about it? I found out about TSA. I was doing some research. I had a walkout. I had a walkout in my salon,
Mhm.
and I didn't know what to do. So I'm like, somebody gonna tell me something. I don't know what to do with this. So
Wow.
I'm looking through my Modern Salon or American Salon, I can't remember which
Mhm.
one, magazine, and it had an article about the top business salon owners in the industry were starting an association. And
Mhm.
it was in Miami, which just happens to be
Oh,
Orlando's favorite place
okay.
to be. So, and to be honest, girl, like I said, we just had a walkout.
Mhm.
So financially, we probably couldn't afford to go.
Right, right.
But for all the knowledge that I knew that was going to be in that room, oh,
Mhm.
somebody was going to tell me something.
Okay, right.
Like, I'm going. If I got to sleep on the park bench, I'm going.
Okay.
Yes. But
And
you
that's
have
sometimes
to
what it
be,
takes is that
yes,
commitment
you
that
have to
like
be that
whatever. I don't know how
headstrong.
this is happening, but it's gonna happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So
Making a way
that's
out of no
really
way.
what it was.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't think I would. I don't know. I might have gone to one in Miami, but it's like I definitely went to Scottsdale.
Yes, that was the
And
second one.
that was the second one. That
That was
may
the
have been
second
my
one.
first one, but there it seems like I was in a different city, so I'm not sure, but I clearly
Well,
remember
because
Scott.
remember, they went to different cities
Oh, okay.
at
Okay.
that time rather than
Okay.
just staying at towards the end. It just was in Arizona, but
Yeah.
they went to different cities in the
Okay.
very beginning. Yeah. So the
Yeah.
first one it
I
was in
may have been in
Miami.
Miami, but now I can't even remember. But but yeah, it's like you're absolutely right with organizations to like get involved, to read the publications that come out about our industry. I was involved with NCA before
Mm-hmm.
TSA, the
Mm-hmm.
National Cosmetology Association, which is kind of part of PBA as well. They kind of morph
Yes.
things
Yeah,
together.
they kind of morphed together.
But it was brilliant. It was all over the country. You had your different local associations, you had your national, you had your state, and the education that they had and the networking. It's like I met my first salon owner that I worked with as a student. That was my
Wow.
first existing job. I saw her on stage doing a presentation. I was like, that lady can come from here. I want to work with
Right, right. But the exposure,
yeah, yeah. But if you don't get out, if you don't go to the things and make
you
that
won't know.
exactly, and all
Mm.
this is going on, like you say, all these $1 million salons, deals, all kinds of different things and opportunities, not even
Yeah.
connected to salons, are going on in our industry, and we have to get more aware. And it's like we're working with NBCL, the National Beauty Culturist League, which is the
Okay.
oldest Black organization in the country, and
Yeah.
it's powerful, what these organizations have done and brought to
Hmm.
the table, and how we need to keep them going and keep
Absolutely.
the energy.
Absolutely. Because they built it so that we can we're standing on their shoulders.
Absolutely,
We
without
didn't just evolve here. Like
question.
they did a whole lot of work to get us to be able to have a seat at those tables. So
Right, right.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So I hope some young folks are listening. It's like you didn't just pop in the world and it's like, oh, the world's waiting
Right.
for
Here I am. No,
you.
not so much. It's
There's a
a
whole,
lot
whole
of
industry.
hairstylists that did a whole lot of work and paved the way for us to be where we are today.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I actually got to interview my mom, which I haven't gotten to air. It's like we haven't
Oh,
done it. We did it on audio, not video, so I've got to get it so it's set up on the podcast. But
oh, that's so cool.
yeah, when she started, I think she said they made $1.60 or something a head, and then she got like 40% commission, and then taxes came out of that, and it was we can't even quite wrap our brain around like $1.40, for
Yeah.
a whole
And you
hair.
know what's interesting, even back then, they understood 40% commission.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
understood
Yeah.
what that
Yeah.
number meant, which
Yeah.
is interesting because our industry as a whole has gotten away from that when it comes to running a business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we've gone into different directions, which, I have no qualms about, because they're all great business models if they're done correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that was just interesting that you said
Yeah.
that,
Yeah. Well, it
even
was
back.
with a department store, so it was a bigger operation or what
Got it,
have you,
got
like
it.
her first
Okay,
job.
so that makes sense.
But yeah, yep, you're absolutely right. And so let's talk about your salon because you had an international, not only in terms of the people that you service, but in terms of your team as
Yeah.
well. International salon and day spa, Blanc et Noir, which
Noir Blanc.
Noir Blanc. Okay,
Yes.
so the other way around. My apologies,
No
but
worries.
you definitely had diversity
Mm-hmm. We
many
did.
years ago before it was a buzzword, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We
So was
did.
that something that was intentional? Was that something that evolved? Was that something that it's like, oh, okay, it just showed up and that's the way it was and you went with it? Or what was the thought process with your
No,
salon?
it was very, very intentional. Very
Okay.
intentional. Um, you know, uh, I in my career as a hairstylist, just about every salon that I work in, Michael and I were the only two black stylists in the salon that we worked in, and there were about 20 hairstylists. It was a Glenby salon,
Okay.
and so there was about 20 stylists in that salon, and he and I were the only two black. But after that, then I worked for Michael, um, and of course that was a very diverse salon.
Hmm.
Um, and then I moved to Cleveland, and when I moved to Cleveland, the salons that I worked in, I was always the only black in the salon. Um, and the reason why that happened was because of my clientele. I always had a very diverse clientele, which is something that I really drive that point home to our students. Is if I was a six-figure hairstylist behind the chair in a commission salon, so
Hmm.
my take-home salary was six figures,
Hmm.
and I would have cut my salary and or cut my check in half if I only did one texture of hair.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it was dollars and cents to me. It just made sense. Not to mention, it expanded my horizons. It allowed me. I mean, I was an educator for John Paul Mitchell Systems.
Hmm.
So the training that I got pretty much was on straight hair or wavy hair.
Hmm.
So I brought to the table the texture piece for Paul Mitchell,
Hmm.
which, because I was one of the few African American stylists in the company, they leaned heavily on me,
Hmm.
which is what I tell our students and my children. That's a great thing. If you can walk into the room, and I mean, I've been wearing my hair like this for years. So I was always, the black girl with the big hair. It's hard to forget.
Okay.
So I'll take it by any means necessary. Be memorable. But
Right.
also, when you're called upon or when you have something to say, be able to say it and deliver on the promise.
Right.
So it was always very, very important to me because I knew Paul Mitchell leaned heavily on me for my texture hair education and experience.
Hmm.
So I really kind of had to do my own thing on the side and figure out, get my education there so that I could bring it back and make sure that I was the expert at the table.
Right.
And Floyd helped me with that. He was
Hmm.
very instrumental on making sure that I got that side tight.
Right.
So, and he told me, he was like, you got to be tight with everybody's hair, not just one,
Hmm.
because that's going to give you that much more leverage
Right.
when you get to the table. And he was 100% correct on that.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. You're reminding me, it's like in school. there was another guy and I, we would be like, always like, well, I'm the best. No, I'm the best, kind of having that little whatever. I think he was Hispanic, but it's like, but I would always end it with, it's like, you could only do white hair. I could do all of it.
Okay, that in itself takes you through the roof already.
Yeah.
Already.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting that you bring that up because I think it can be such an asset that we
Oh
bring,
yeah.
the texture experience, and we bring, experience to all textures of hair.
Right.
And it's not necessarily unusual, but it's like you want to capitalize on your knowledge.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it makes you so much more marketable,
Right.
regardless to whether you're talking about doing hair on set. Now they
Mhm.
only have to hire one hairstylist
Right.
because that one hairstylist can do everybody's hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of times that's not the case.
Yeah. And that's opening up a whole nother conversation of
Absolutely.
everyone should be prepared to do all the
Be
textures of
prepared.
hair.
And I tell my students all the time, the opportunities are going to come. It's
Mhm.
not that we're short on opportunities.
Right.
We just got to make sure that we stay ready. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Be
Absolutely.
prepared when the opportunity knocks, because it's knocking. But can you open the door? Are you prepared and ready to open the door and receive it? That's
Right.
the important piece. And that's what we have to do. And that's what we make sure that we prepare our students for.
Hmm.
Because, I
So,
mean, whether we're talking finances or
hmm.
whether we're talking skill set,
Hmm.
got to be ready.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of what I was going to ask about because it's like there is the skill set being ready, but then the being on time, the being, prepared in terms of how you set up your station and that
Yeah.
type of thing, having it
How you
all
present yourself.
exactly all of those things are.
It's funny because our students, we're very strict about our dress code.
Mhm.
And, they think, NeCole, why are you always picking on us? I'm not picking on y'all. I'm letting you know. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
Right.
You don't know who's going to walk through that door. I
Absolutely.
know some of everybody in this industry, and
Uh-huh.
people are always coming to visit.
Yeah.
So you might read about somebody and they might walk through that door and you looking crazy and you can't even go up and introduce yourself. Because you don't
Absolutely.
look like you should be dispensing beauty information
Right.
at all times. At all
Right.
times. Come in with your face on, hair done, clothes done. Like, look, I'm not saying you got to go out and buy a brand new wardrobe, but look like you are in the beauty industry.
Mhm.
Period.
Great lesson to learn early on. Yeah, absolutely. So with the salon and spa, any, quick lessons that you could share from your ownership of it or for anyone who may be aspiring to do a salon and day spa? Because I think, I had my anniversary for Beauty Superstars talk and had some of my team members to come and join me. And, they were just saying it's like there's still such a need for
Yeah.
these services and for the experience, that we
Yes.
were able to create. So what would
Absolutely.
your thoughts be?
Well, you know what? I think it's important that you understand what your niche is. Our niche was a high end. You know, we were right downtown, right across the street from Cleveland Clinic,
Hmm.
and it was a very diverse, market with people literally from all over the world.
Hmm.
And so we had to be prepared to give an experience that was beyond ordinary. It's extraordinary. And so that's what we really catered to.
Hmm.
But then came with that was a whole different mindset. And it was interesting. We didn't have a choice. We had to hire people fresh out of beauty school
Hmm.
because somebody that had a clientele that came to us, we learned quickly they were not going to last. They
Hmm.
weren't going to last with us because we had a very high expectation
Hmm.
and our standards were equally as high. And it's not for the faint at heart, it's not for the weak. So, not that the people that didn't last were weak, I'm not saying that, but it was not easy.
Hmm.
And it was funny because people would always say, I want to work in a high-end salon, a professional salon. So I would ask them, what does that mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
What exactly does that mean to you? And they would give out a few things, and then I would have to tell them, okay, well, this is what it means to us. This is what Noir Blanc standards of high-end professional salon looks like. And it was, you on time meant you were 15 minutes early,
Mm-hmm.
at least. And professional meant you looked the part every day.
Mm-hmm.
It meant, you had a certain, conversation that you had with your client. We had KPIs. Even back then, we had key performance indicators that we held them to. Your retail had to be a certain level.
Right.
Your request rate had to be a certain level. Your rebooking had to be a certain level. All of those things that regulate running a successful salon, it was in place, and you had to meet those.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a different experience for somebody that had been in the industry for a long time, that thought they just were coming to a pretty salon to work in. And no, it wasn't. I mean, me, working and starting my career off at a Glenby's, that was probably the best move that I made, because I really got an opportunity to see how a business salon ran, what that looked like in education, what that looked like behind the chair, what that looked like in documenting your numbers and meeting goals and being held accountable to goals, and all of that, what those one-on-one conversations looked like. They had that down to a science.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so thankful that I was astute enough to be able to pay attention to that. And I didn't understand it all the way, but I at least was familiar with it. So it wasn't foreign when it was reintroduced to me at TSA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's so important. Like, I'm hearing attitude, like your attitude was like, let me learn from this situation. Whereas
Yeah.
I see a lot of people who are in, a corporate environment or what have you, and they spend most of their time complaining that they don't like
Yeah,
this.
there was a whole lot to complain about, but
And
there was a
yeah,
lot to learn from too.
yeah, it's like, but why is it that way? And what is it, doing in terms of building building the business, building your business, that you're
Absolutely.
going to take care of and be able to take money home from. It's like we don't want the discipline a lot, and really,
But it's
like,
necessary.
this is what makes it work. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like I said, I'm just so thankful that I at least understood that part,
Hmm.
that I could pay attention. Like you said, I mean, I didn't really realize all of it, but I knew it was there for a reason. And I was not afraid to ask why. Well, why
Okay.
do we do it that way?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why is a really good question.
It is. It really is. It's annoying as heck,
Yeah.
particularly to the person if they don't know the answer. But I was always, well, if you don't know, is there some place we can go to find it?
Right.
Because I don't know was not an okay answer for me. Like,
Right.
somebody in here knows. Let's figure out. Let's find out who it is and what that answer is. Because
Right.
why is so important, and and for us as a people, we have been raised not to ask why.
Mm.
Because I said so. I'm grown. You don't ask me why. And that does not serve us well in business at all.
True.
Because
True.
why is really, that is not a great answer question. That is the question.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah. Yeah.
everything has an answer to why. Everything.
Right, right. And things are being done with a purpose in mind. So like
Absolutely.
you say, somebody knows the answer to why.
Somebody knows. Let's
It
go
may not
find
be
it.
a good reason why we're doing it, but it's like
But you need to know that too. You
right,
need to
right.
know
So you
that
can
too.
make some changes. But
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
Yes. And
yeah.
I know so often, and it's funny that I really kind of realized that when I was on the board at TSA,
Mm.
because they questioned everything, everything. And that was really the first time I had been on the board. So I was just, okay, okay. But they questioned everything.
Give us an example.
We were talking about the
Mhm.
budget, and They basically were saying, well, this is what we have to do with this, and, blah, blah, blah. And they were telling us what we needed to do. Well, the Gene Juarez's and the people who were, used to running large corporations in our industry, and it wasn't just salon owners, it was people from BBSI were part of that board also. So
That's
it was
tell us
your, pardon?
what BBSI is.
Yes, I forgot what it stands for, but it's the Distributors Association.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
Distributors Association and Manufacturers Association were also a part of this board. So there were people from like the major hair care companies, their CEOs, some of their CEOs were on that board, owners of some of the largest distributors. And at that time, they're all bought up now. But at that time, there were some really strong, heavy hitters in the distributor world that were still in the game. So some of them were on the board. So little old me, I was just like, oh my God. I mean, I was really overwhelmed because that, like I said, that was the first board I'd ever been on. So to be at the table, and my mother always told me, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Ooh.
So yeah,
Repeat that one.
Yes.
Repeat that one.
Yes, you are not at the table, you're on the menu.
Ooh.
And that is so true. That is so true.
I love that.
Because you are at that table, and sometimes the things that they would say would make my mouth drop.
Wow.
Yeah, because I'm like, oh my gosh.
But that's one reason we need to be on the board.
That's why we need to be at this table, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what started it for me. And so every organization I get in, I try real hard to get at that table. Because that's where the decisions are made. You got to be a part of the decision making.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, that's beautiful. And we definitely appreciate your service and your commitment to the industry to help us move forward and help us to, be more inclusive and have some of these systems in place in terms of like the schools and the training and things that we need.
Absolutely.
So yeah, tell us like about your school. It's like you went into the school business.
Yeah. Well,
that like
well, you know what? It was brand new to me because I'll be really honest. I never thought about being a school owner. Like that thought never crossed my mind. I never met, I won't say never. I met the owner of the beauty school that I went to when I took his place on state board.
Oh, okay.
That's when I met him.
Okay.
And so I introduced myself and told him I graduated from his school. And that was the first time I'd ever met him. I knew his name, but I'd never met him.
Wow.
Which is why it's so important for Orlando and I to go in and spend time with our students so that they know who we are, and they also know that it's possible. Right. Like, oh, they're just regular people. So if they can open a school, I can open a school. Absolutely, you can. Absolutely, you can. So back to relationships. When Clayball and I had a great relationship, and he, with the conversations, I always said the conversations we had always came back to, we need better schools. We need great schools in our industry. And so he contacted me and he said, NeCole, you got to come see what I've done. And at that time, he still had Bon Curtis, but he had opened the first Paul Mitchell School, which is in Costa Mesa, California.
Okay.
And he invited my husband and I to come out and see the school. And when I walked in, when I tell you, it was like hair utopia. It was like, oh my
right.
God. It was beautiful. It was energetic. The students were awesome. It was just everything you could think of that would make a beauty school like amazing. That's what that school was. And really, before I even knew what he was doing, I was like, how can I be a part of this? I need to be involved. I mean, and I'm just thinking, okay, I really didn't know what I was thinking. So I really didn't. I just knew I needed to be a part of it. But he had invited us to come down and see it. because he said, you guys have to open Ohio. He was
Mm-hmm.
like, you get it. You know
Right.
what this industry needs as a salon owner. And at that time, like I said, we only hired people fresh out of beauty school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and our training program was like a year, 18 months
Wow.
before they could even get on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
So you can imagine how expensive and time consuming that
Right.
was. And so he knew we understood education in our
Right.
industry. However, there's a huge difference between salon education and cosmetology education.
Mm-hmm.
And the worlds, although in the same industry, are worlds apart, different.
Interesting.
So we were actually, I want to say, like number 4 of the Paul Mitchell schools in the nation.
Wow.
Our Cleveland school was.
Okay.
And then shortly after, I think it's like 18 months, we opened, or 2 years later, we opened the Columbus location. And that was, I think, like number 18. So
Wow.
we were very, very, very new into the Paul Mitchell schools. There's 125 of them now
Okay.
worldwide.
Okay. So you
And
number 4, number 18. Okay.
yeah, it has grown quite a bit. But we all grew together. Like
Mm.
literally, we grew up in this together, which was a really cool process.
Right.
You know, a lot of the systems that we have in place, it's a franchise, but because we were so young in the
Okay.
process, we
Uh-huh.
helped write and build some of those systems.
Okay. Okay. Part of
So
your
it
own
was a
book.
really cool experience, very cool experience, and we
Mm.
got an opportunity to learn it. And like I said, it was a completely different process.
Mhm.
So with that, our children were very young, and Orlando was still working for the state, and I was doing this, working in the salon and trying to, build the school. So something had to give. The children needed us. The both businesses needed us. It was just no way we could do it all. So we did. We sold Noir Blanc, but we kept the name. We
Oh,
kept the
okay.
name, but
Okay.
we sold the salon.
Okay.
Um, and so that we could just dive all in and really lock in on learning the school industry. And
Okay.
I'm just so thankful that we did that, because those times it wasn't nearly as volatile as it is now in the school industry. And it's interesting because people call me all the time and ask me, can you talk to me about and give me some insight or mentor me? I want to open up a school. Absolutely. The answer is always yes. But I tell them on our first call, I'm like, look, I don't want you to think that I'm like giving you all the negative and the doom and gloom. But right now, it's a really, really volatile time. Like on the volatile scale, it's like 100,
Mm.
just because regulations and everything in the school world are just crazy.
Okay.
So I almost try and talk people out of getting into it right now,
Hmm.
um, particularly if they don't know anything about schools.
Okay.
Because if you're talking about getting involved with financial aid and that sort of thing,
Hmm.
the government doesn't play about their money,
Right.
and people are going to jail for
Okay.
not doing it right. Like no
Mhm.
malice in their heart. They just, ignorance. But that ignorance is no excuse, and they will take you to jail.
Okay.
So I tell people all the time, like, this is nothing to play with.
Right.
It's very, very rewarding. I love it. Education is in my passion. That's the fire in my belly, and that's
Mhm.
what really keeps us going, because that's our future. That is
Right.
our future. But when we got in it, it's been 20 years now. When we
Hmm.
got in it, it was a really different time. And we could focus on just learning the business.
Okay. And
And now there's so many other things that you have to focus on in terms of the legislation that's going on, the compliance piece that's going on. the financial aid piece that's going on, the student loan piece. Like there's so many parts and moving parts, not to mention the education and teaching
Right.
the students and that sort of thing. And, I'm just so thankful that from day one, we were always talking about texture and why it's important to know all different textures of hair and, what the result looks like on curly hair. A square one length is it lays and lives completely different than a square one length on straight hair, and what those differences look like and how decolorizer it affects the hair differently on, fine straight hair than it does on coarse curly hair. It affects the hair so differently. But we've always taught that. That was really a no-brainer for
Mm-hmm.
us.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of having, a partner school with Paul Mitchell. Yes, we are still part of the franchise, but we get the opportunity as a partner school to do things, what we see fit. And
Mm-hmm.
having a texture curriculum and a business curriculum has
Nice.
always been part of our agenda from day one.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
day
Which
one.
is beautiful. Yeah. In terms of what the students are able to get out of the experience.
Yes.
Yeah. That they come up
Mhm.
more prepared.
Yes.
That's one
Yes.
of the
It's
challenges.
just it's important. This is your business. This is your
Right.
livelihood.
Right.
This is not a side hustle, and we tell them that.
Right. Right.
Like if you approach it like this is, we're not cheap. We are not an inexpensive school by any
Right.
stretch of the means. So if you really want to use this as a side hustle, go someplace that's gonna cost you a whole lot less money. Don't spend all this money to make this a side hustle.
Okay.
Spend if you're gonna spend the money, go big or go home. If you
Right.
come in here, have big dreams. We tell them your dream should be so big. When you tell somebody about it, they should go, oh, that's cute. If they don't respond that way, your dream is not big enough.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I want. I mean, this is all about family as well, and it's like
Yes, I know. We've talked about
you
everything but
mentioned
that.
Orlando. So tell us about Orlando. Your how long you guys have been married? It's like what it's
Oh my
like
goodness.
being partners in life and business. It's like that.
Yes. Well, Orlando and I have been married 30 years. We just celebrated 30 years in May. Thank
Congratulations.
you. Yes.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, we started dating in high school. We were 15. And when I left college to go to beauty school, he really was the only person that I told right away.
Okay.
And he asked me, he said, "What are you gonna do with that?" I was like, "I have no idea, but I just know this is the right thing to do." And he's like, "All right, let's roll, go for it."
Yeah.
And so he was always very supportive from day one. So even when it came down to, the salon and opening a salon,
Mhm.
he was always right there. And so being my business partner was just a no-brainer.
Yeah. Okay.
He's a very um, methodical thinker, a
Mhm.
very deep thinker, and I'm always the visionary.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, Real quick story when we went to Costa Mesa to see the school, and of course I'm all over the place now. I'm like, we're doing this. We got to do this. This is what we got to do. This is it. And it was not a small investment.
Mm.
And he was like, okay, so where are we gonna get this money? And and he kept saying it. And so finally I'm like, oh my gosh, will you please stop bothering me with these minor details? He was like, see, this is what I'm working with. But I mean, that's why we work as a team so well,
Mhm.
because he has one way of looking at it and I have a completely different and opposite way of looking at
Right.
it. But we also both have very different roles in the company.
Mhm.
He's very strategic We always say, I have the vision, I'm the visionary, and he shows us how we're going to finance the vision.
Okay.
So, and it works. It
That's
totally works.
a good
Yeah.
combination.
Yeah, it's a great combination. It really does.
Yeah.
Like, we don't always agree on everything,
Right.
but because we come from different perspectives.
Hmm. Hmm.
And, at the end, we always kind of meet in the middle and we go with not what's right or wrong, but what's right for the business.
Mm. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you, like, how do you kind of make those decisions, like with prioritizing? And it's like you said, you made the decision to close the salon because, you had young kids and you were opening the other business and he was still working full time. And yeah, how do
Yeah.
you
I mean, we
balance
both
all of
realized, yeah,
it?
it was just too much. So, and we knew that was something we were making it happen, but we knew that speed of life that we were at was not sustainable.
Hmm.
Something was going to fall short, either the business, the children, us,
Right.
something. And before that happened, we needed to, like, okay, something's got to go. We got to
Right.
pull something off the table. And, we understood at that time that the bigger vision and the more impact and, financially, it just made more sense to move with the schools.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, we knew we could always come back to salons if we wanted to.
Right, right. Yeah, absolutely. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's really cool to hear. And you have your children who are part of the industry. So
They
tell us about
are. They
them.
are. Well, it's funny because we would always have conversations at dinner and, because we got to fit it all in. So sometimes the business meetings would be at the dinner table.
Right.
And Skylar, who, she's definitely the visionary like me. She would always say, hey, look at me, tell me, ask me. And at that time, she was probably only like 5 or 6. So we would ask them, okay, so what do you think? And
Mhm.
of course, at that time, we would get some wild answers. But the fact that, we were asking them their opinion
Right.
and they had to think about it and give us their opinion,
Mhm.
then, it was helpful. And so now, to your point, both of them are involved in the business. Very different ways, though. Um, they both worked in the school while they were in college. Well, Skylar worked in the school while she was in college. They both have degrees in entrepreneurship, business and
Okay.
entrepreneurship.
Nice.
Um, but Skylar worked she worked at the front desk, and she went into enrollment. So she was part of our admissions team.
Okay.
Because I knew very young she was going to be a hairstylist. I mean, it was just all in her veins. I just knew it.
Right.
And then our son, he worked for us as our operations leader when he graduated from college.
Oh, wow.
And he just wanted to like be in it and understand the business. But he said he already knew that was not something long term that he wanted to do. He just wanted to
Hmm.
be in it enough to understand the business.
Right.
He knew he wasn't a hairstylist. He didn't know what he was and where he fit. And I think because people always ask, how did you get both of your kids involved in the business? And number one, we didn't force them. Neither one. We waited until they came to us and asked us for
Mm.
a position in the business. And then we let them kind of figure out, where do you think you fit?
Mm.
And so it made sense. Skylar's role in enrollment and admissions, it was perfect because she was very passionate about the industry. She understood the curriculum, so that made sense for her. Orlando, we call him OC.
Okay.
He is very much like his father. He's very, he's a thinker. He's a deep thinker, very methodical, and a little shyer than Sky. Very behind the scenes kind of guy.
Okay.
So he, had no desire to be out in front and, all of that. So he decided that once he came into the school, he realized that operations, logistics, and that sort of thing wasn't his thing. So he always had a passion for real estate.
Mm.
And we used to, when they were younger, we would always, after church, we would always go to open houses and look at the
Okay.
big houses and just
Uh-huh.
dream. And so he would listen to the questions that his father would ask. And then he started asking those questions, like, how far back does the property line go? And he might have been in the fifth grade.
Okay.
How far back is the property line? And so asking questions like that.
Okay.
But it's just a passion of his. So
Hmm.
he actually is a real estate agent and got his license. And he is actually, we have a real estate development company.
Nice.
So all of the businesses that we have, we own the buildings in all of our locations.
Beautiful.
Um, yeah, so he finds the locations, negotiates the deals, and puts them together. And
Nice.
then we also do real estate development, so buying homes, flipping homes, buying things of that nature.
Nice.
So that they're both very involved in areas where they're passionate and which so my answer is always let them choose where they can be, the best
Mhm.
fit.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because I mean, I had no idea about that, that he would, that's the area that he would choose. And that was actually something he brought to the table.
Mm.
Of course, we thought about owning our own property, but when he really was able to articulate why it was so important for us to do that, we were like, let's do it. Absolutely.
Okay.
But again, those opportunities, you got to be ready for them. You got to be ready when opportunities like that present itself so that you can jump on it.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it sounds like you guys have really created that kind of generational wealth that we're talking about, where you have
Absolutely.
assets that
Absolutely.
pass things down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and now we found a reason we needed to open up schools because of legislation and all. I mean, not schools, salons, but because of regulation and the placement
Mhm.
that the that's dependent, that's put on schools, the placement rate and all of that.
Mhm.
Um, all the rage right now are studios or lofts, which are
Mhm.
great. They're a great business model, but
Right.
not for a kid fresh out of school. Like
Okay.
you're setting them up for failure. And
Yeah.
there just weren't enough commission salons, you know, successful commission salons that our students, like I said, we graduate about 300 a year.
Mm.
So that's a lot of students.
Right.
And we needed to see what our students were like in the field anyway. It just made
Mhm.
sense.
Okay.
And Skylar had been in the industry behind at a salon behind the chair for about 6 years.
Okay.
And right during COVID, um, she said, "Hey, you know what? I think it's time. I think I'm ready. I'm ready to open a salon." So it was really interesting. If you remember, I said when we sold the salon, we kept the name.
Okay.
And we
Uh-huh.
had no idea why we kept the name, other than the fact that, we'd worked really hard for the name and the reputation and all of that. And the new owners, they were fine. Like they were probably going to change it anyway. So we were like, well, just keep it. And so we have reopened the salon. Skylar and Orlando and I have partnered, and we reopened Noir Blanc. So
Nice.
now Skylar owns it and runs it and is doing a phenomenal job.
Awesome. That's so exciting. Yay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And you
Thank
have kind of a hybrid model there from what I
We
understand.
do. We
Yeah. So
do.
tell
It's
me about that.
interesting. Well, the hybrid model is um, we have the salon, commission based salon,
Okay.
but one of the challenges of commission salons is once a stylist gets to a certain level or a ceiling, they don't have anywhere to go. Like there's only so much you can raise your prices,
Mm-hmm.
and in a commission or employee based salon, you can only take the commission up so high. So ours, the ceiling for us is 45. We start
Okay.
at 40, but it does not go any higher than 45. So at some point, you're going to hit a ceiling. So there has to be some way that that person can grow, or else, of course, they're going to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to grow. So on the other side, we have studios, that are very high end, the same quality as the salon.
Mm-hmm.
It has a very beautiful, when you walk in the door, there's a lobby that, is synonymous to a high end hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And you turn one way, and they're all very private studios. And you turn the other way, there are these big, huge wooden double doors that you go into the salon.
Nice.
So when they get to that level in the salon, Orlando and I can sit down with them, go over their numbers,
Mm-hmm.
and help them to be able to say, okay, are you ready? Are you ready to let's see if your numbers will
Right.
satisfy you being able to be successful in the studios.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's so far so good. It's working really well, and there's so far so good. It's
Yeah.
really exciting, and we actually have a couple of other models that well, not models, but a couple of other things that they can do. Because I know for me, I love working in a commission salon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love the energy, I love the camaraderie, I love everybody being there, and just feeding off of each other. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, walking in a studio would not have been something that I wanted. Not to mention, I'm not the most organized person when it comes to my numbers and all of that stuff. So I probably would have stunk up the place on that. So I love getting the W-2 and just taking care of it that way. So we do have some other ways that they can navigate a career path, kind of like an accounting firm would have a partner. You can reach partner level. We have
Okay.
something similar to that. Well, they can reach partner status, and they
Nice.
do get part of the profits
Got
as
it.
an owner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that gives them a bonus, if you will, and be able to still continue to grow. And now they have some skin in the game
Right.
in helping the newer stylists grow and develop. So
Right.
it's working. We're really, really excited. I mean, it's not the end all be all, but it's a solution. It's a working solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds pretty brilliant from here, that
Thank you.
like that there are so many, in a sense, holes in what we've been doing. It's like
Right.
I've just been really committed that, sometimes it's just that the business model has to change. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like that's
Mm-hmm.
what you've
Right.
done is created a new business model that fits, where we are in 2021. So
Well, thank you.
yeah, brilliant.
Appreciate
Yeah, yeah. It's like there's so much, to talk about, but it's like I want to, wrap us up.
Okay.
And any thoughts that you would like to share of something we may or may not have touched on?
You know what? This industry is just there. It's filled with opportunity. Just so many opportunities, and it really is not just set aside for a few people.
Mhm.
And people ask me this all the time, like, how were you able to do and accomplish what you've been able to accomplish? And my response is always the same, like relationships, being engaged and being involved in your industry, participating, going outside your own neighborhood, expounding your horizon. And our daughter, when she graduated from cosmetology, she graduated, of course, from our cosmetology school,
Mhm.
which, of course, she got a great education. But once she graduated, she went to London for 3 months to the Sassoon Academy, and so that she could experience that and go to their 3 month advanced academy,
Mm-hmm.
so that
Right.
she could be, in the forefront and have something to say and have something experience to share and to know. So the more you know, the better you can become. So
Right.
I guess that would be my biggest thing. And the same thing with business. You know, um, I'm always at some sort of business, a conference or something. Number one, we love to travel.
Right.
And number two, we love to learn. And I think those are the two. You have to be a lifelong learner, and there's two completely different skill sets to be a really successful hairstylist than there is to being a really successful business owner.
Mm.
And sometimes as hairstylists, we focus so much on being successful hairstylists and doing beautiful hair, which everything has a season. There is a season. I haven't done hair in 15 years. I'm still very passionate about it and I love it, but I have to spend my time and energy on learning to be a better business owner. So
Mm.
that's where I spend my focus. But I
Yeah.
get to be around it. I mean, I'm at the salon now. So
Okay.
yeah, so it's just really understanding where you are in your life and in that stage, or that season of your life, and focusing and becoming better in that season.
Yeah, yeah, it's beautiful. And one of the things, going back to your original story of, walking out of your college class and saying, "Nope, I'm going this way," is, overall, it's like I see like a lack of confidence in a lot of stylists. And so,
Yes.
with your students coming through and having the interactions there and kind of preparing them for, going out into the world and to, starting their careers, what have you seen and what suggestions would you have in terms of just building that sense of, you know, self?
Education. There's nothing better to build self confidence and self esteem than education.
Mm.
The more you know, the more you know.
Okay.
One of my mentors says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change.
Hmm.
Robert Cronin says that all the time. And
Beautiful.
it's so true. It
Right.
is so true. I mean, we can sit back and, cry a river because we all got a story that we can tell. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Right.
But are you gonna sit back like my when I hear the story, I'm like, okay, so what you gonna do about it?
Yep.
What you gonna do about it? I mean,
Yep.
it's happened. It is what it is. Make the adjustment and keep it moving.
Hmm. Yeah. Yep. I think we may not hear that enough these days. That
Yeah.
is the pity parties and the online, it's like, I don't know why you're doing that, or, or putting up with that, or, people are like throwing out clients left and right. And it's just like, somebody needs to tell you, that's like, just get it together
Get it
and,
together. Keep it moving. Right.
yep, go
And I,
through
and
what
I
you need
and
to go
not to be
through.
insensitive because I know for some people it's a little more difficult than others. But if you need some help, go get some help.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do the work and keep it moving.
Yeah. Yeah. Wallowing in the problem isn't going to help you get past
No, it's not. It's
it.
really
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
and it sounds like you've, obviously created a luxury environment there with your new salon. But have the course, the luxury hairstylist blueprint. It's like, how do you feel like stylists can like elevate their level of service and be more confident in terms of charging what that level looks like?
It's all about the experience.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I'll be really honest. I was never the best hairstylist when I was behind the chair, and I'll be the first to admit that. But I was amazing at giving a great experience.
Mm.
And people
So,
will pay for experience any day,
hmm.
any day. If they could walk in, particularly if they're used to going to a salon and sitting and having to wait and not be able to, have their hair done when they need to, or you heard all the stories. We all know them. If they can walk into a beautiful salon and have some great conversation, get educated about their hair, be relaxed, get in on time, get out on time, you got them for life.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
got them for life. And,
Yeah.
and I'll be honest, I'll be the first to say, and the hair was just okay. It was cute.
Okay. But
It
that's the
wasn't all of
thing.
that, I promise.
Yeah, we think they come, for their hair, and they want a low price. It's like it's so much
And I
more.
always charge top dollar.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. So much
But
more.
it's for they will pay for experience.
Yeah.
They will pay
Well,
for
thank you.
experience.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think
Absolutely.
somebody heard something that they needed to hear. So yeah, so I so want to thank you for being here, taking time out of your day and
Oh, it
schedule.
was so my pleasure. Thank you for
Yeah.
inviting me.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, well, I've definitely learned so much more about you, and we have lots more in common than I've even thought about. So
Yeah, I always knew we were kindred spirits.
absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, so thank you again. It's like you are just a shining, bright star in our industry, and we
Thank you.
just appreciate the legacy that you're building with yourself and your family, because that's not always the easiest path. But I
Man.
will say a lot of the top people in the Salon Association in TSA were couples.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, that I think makes a difference with being able to kind of balance some of the load of it. And like
it
you
does because you can't
like,
do it all. You cannot do it
right,
all
right.
alone. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I was working on it, but it's like it's a lot. So
It is a lot, particularly when you have kids and
right,
family and all of that.
right.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, yeah. So you've done a fabulous job, and we
Thank you so
wish
much.
you
I
continued
appreciate
success.
it.
So, is there anything upcoming outside of the salon, and obviously your schools are ongoing, but what are things coming up for NeCole and or the Cumberlander family?
Well, you know what? We are very involved in the Cunity Money Project.
Now, what is that?
Cunity, it is a financial literacy um, curriculum
Uh-huh.
for the beauty industry.
Ah, okay.
And we have it in schools. Um, a lot of your bigger name schools have it
Hmm.
in their schools, and they are doing it with their future professionals.
Nice.
But I think it is an amazing project and curriculum to have for salons.
Mm.
Because we all know, I mean, we can probably write a book of names of people in our industry that have made so much money and just let it slip through their fingers, and at the end of the day don't have anything to show for it.
Hmm. Right.
And this really, and I'm so excited to be a part of it because um, we're doing it early. We first week of school. First
Okay.
week of school. So from their student loans to their first job right out of school,
Nice.
and the money that they're making while they're in school.
Hmm.
You know, it is amazing, and I'm just so excited that we get to be a part of it and get to educate, and on another level of just having impact and taking our industry to another level.
Right.
We have it's a multi-billion-dollar industry,
Right.
and we are such a small part of the finance piece, and we could do so much more, and we could do so much better.
Yeah.
So if we wanted to do better, we want to be better, we got to do better. So
Okay.
that starts with education. So that's what
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah, it's like definitely send me some information. I'd love to,
okay.
share that
Absolutely.
with others. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And how can we stay in touch with you?
You can follow me. It's NeCole Cumberlander, NeCole Cumberlander. Um, then that's my Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can follow me on
So
there.
got it scrolling across there. I think I spelled everything correctly.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good.
Got it.
Yeah, so be sure to follow NeCole and her amazing career, and we will. Oh wow, it's like this has been really good. So
Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate
yeah,
you inviting me.
yeah. Well, I'm so glad you were able to come, NeCole, and so glad that you guys have joined us. And I hope that you got so much out of this conversation and that you feel elevated, because it's like there's so much to this industry.
Yeah,
A lot of times more than we realize, and
absolutely.
so. Yeah, it's like this is almost a combination of it's a family affair, that series, but also it's like we're finishing up the series on It's More Than Hair. And
Yeah.
so you've
So
got,
much more than hair. So
yeah.
much more.
Yeah, so thank you, everyone. It's like if you have missed any of these interviews with these amazing Black beauty bosses, to definitely follow me on beautysuperstars.com/podcast. You can view it from there. It's like it'll take you to my YouTube page, which is at Mickey Wright, just one K, MIKIWRIGHT. And I've done over 70 of these interviews. So there's plenty to choose from. And you can binge watch or binge listen, however it works out best. And also, if you are challenged with raising your prices, you should, but you haven't, keep
Get
checking
them
it
up there.
out.
That's right.
Yep, download. It's like I've got the power pricing workbook specifically for hairstylists, and it gives you the first 3 steps that you need to be able to take those steps to increase your prices and actually charge what you're worth. So I hope to see you guys next week, and have a great week. Keep reaching for the stars, and we will see you next time.
See ya.